Let's make sure to mute that. There's the countdown there, everybody. Looks like there's just a minute until we're going to get started. My name's Aaron Magnet. I'm going to be doing this What's New session for Fusion 360. Right now, we only have a couple people in here, and I'm wondering if I had set something up wrong. If I made it private or something, we'll have to figure that out. Anyway, looks like a couple more people have showed up. We should be getting started when this counts down. Like I say, it seems like a lower number than usual, so maybe I need to double check, make sure I didn't do something wrong. I think one of these, we actually set it as a private event, so no one knew what was going on. So that was unfortunate. Anyway, if you are here today, hopefully you know what we're going to be covering. We're going to be talking about the new features that are in Fusion 360 that actually dropped at the end of November. Let's just change the scene here to show my face. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what we're going to be showing and tell you a little bit more about what we're covering today. On November 28th, I think it was, the update went live at I think 6 p.m. Western Pacific time, and typically we put together videos that you'll see posted on our YouTube channel. We have a whole history of the different updates that we've done and shared with you. We wanted to try it a little bit different. We've been doing these live streams more often, so we wanted to give it a shot in this way. So let us know if you like this. I think there's pros and cons to both methods, so just give us the feedback of what you think. I mean, obviously the polished videos are very nice, but I think, if you're here right now, you probably enjoy the spontaneity of a live stream as well. So with that said, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. And I'm going to check to make sure that everyone can hear me. And we got some good comments here. Yeah, we got some people from NYC. Hello, everybody. We got Eastern Canada represented. I just got back from there last night, flying with a 13-month-old. It's not the easiest thing to do. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it and start showing my screen. So this is going to have a little bit of PowerPoint presentation related to it. I wanted to just start off with sorry, I was reading one of the messages that came up there. I want to start off with some of the highlights and show you the ins and outs of how to use these new features, and then kind of go through a list of some of the other features that are on there, because as you probably know, what we show in the videos isn't inclusive of everything that gets changed in an update. A lot of times we just show you like some of the cool new features, but always behind the scenes we're fixing things and making all kinds of changes. So again, I'm Aaron Magnan, Technical Marketing Manager for Fusion 360. Okay, so let's get right into the highlights. First of all, this one I love. It seems like a step in the right direction. If you recall, when you maybe first started Fusion 360, you might have like gone in and you were looking for file open if you were looking to bring in a file. Unfortunately, there was no file open. There was only the new design from file. We recently changed that in this update to instead show you this, file open that everyone is so familiar with. And with that, we've really simplified the approach to anyone who's looking to bring these your files in from perhaps other software into Fusion 360. And we've taken it even a step further, because previously when you were doing this, it only worked for a certain number of file types. And this is related to what translators are installed locally when you actually get Fusion 360 installed. It can, however, work with all the different file types you see at the bottom of that list there, CATIA parts and DWGs and SOLIDWORKS assemblies and all kinds of different stuff. So now you can open and import all of these different files from the same location from that file open dialog. So let me just come into Fusion and show you how this works and show you a little bit of the caveats that you might want to look out for. Actually, it's actually really simple. There's not a lot to watch out for. It's just one little thing I wanted to bring to your attention. So when you're in this, this is where you access your file menu. We will go ahead and select open, obviously, from the list now. And you can also open existing files using this methodology now. So you can actually, if you can see my full list of projects that I have over here on the left-hand side. However, what I wanted to use it for today was to open a file from my computer, to import something into Fusion 360. So instead of finding the files that I already exist in my data panel, I'll select to open file from computer. This brings up, your open dialog. If you're on a PC, it might look a little bit different, but I'll just jump into my desktop. I have a couple different file types here that I wanted to highlight. So if you recall, the original list that you could do from new file from type was like step and a couple others. I think, obviously the Fusion 360 file type. So when I click open from that dialog, it opens immediately. There is a local translator for the step file type that I just opened. However, if I do that again, and I don't necessarily need to do new file, but just force a habit, I guess. But I'll click open once again. I'll say open from my computer. And in this second example, I wanted to use the SOLIDWORKS file. So in this case, the translators are not local. So it actually goes and puts it into the job status, and in the background on the cloud, it's actually translating this file for me. So obviously you can close this dialog. You don't need to keep that open. You'll see that it's telling us, it's translating this file type. And once it's ready, you can click that open button. It should look exactly the same, and we'll be able to interact with it in the same method as before. So very happy to see that change. I think I made an import video once, and I kind of poked fun at the fact that there was no file open. So that's a very welcome change from my perspective personally. So let's close these down and let's get back into the PowerPoint and talk about some of these other awesome new changes. Hotkeys for visual styles. As you know, we've recently enabled a lot of new hotkey options. I mean, the ability to customize hotkeys was I think the one that a lot of people were looking for. But we're expanding our hotkeys into other groups. In this case, you can see that I can use my control and number keys to get into like shaded views or shaded with hidden edges. And it starts with 4 through 9. That's because control 1, 2, 3 is used in this Sculpt environment to change the visual display. So jumping right back into Fusion 360, let's just open one of these files that I have open here, and you can see obviously this is shaded with edges right now. So if I wanted to, I can use that keyboard shortcut of Control 4 to go to maybe just shaded, in which I would recommend a lot of the time if you're working with a very complex file. If you just use shaded views, it cuts down a lot of the computation, a lot of the lag that could happen if you're working with the complex file. So that's an important one to use. I'll probably be using Control 4 and 6 to turn my edges on and off, but of course you can go to all the different types as well. So here I'm looking at my wireframe, but if you want to just to double check how to get to those visual styles, just open up the options in the view bar at the bottom there. So you can see very quickly and learn those very quickly as well. So another nice little update in the last release to go. Now, this next one actually came from a generative design request, and that was to have the ability to show all bodies. And I think anyone who has used Fusion 360 for any amount of time has found themselves in that situation where they maybe hit a body, but they're having trouble finding and showing it. Well, this is not limited to just your generative designs. This is actually going to be in your normal design situations as well. But let me show you how to access both of these options, both from the generative standpoint as well as in your normal modeling situation as well. So let's go into this caster that I used in a previous example to show you how to work with generative design. So in this case, I've hidden a number of different bodies, and finding and showing them could be a difficult procedure depending on how many levels of components you might have. But now when you're in this edit component environment, you should be able to right click the top level name of the model that you're in, not the top level. You don't want to right click this top one. It's not going to actually do anything for you. You want to make sure to right click this guy here, and that's where you'll find the option to show all bodies. So that's going to bring back whatever I've hidden previously. When I hit Finish Edit Model, it's going to take me back to my normal generative workspace, and we're ready to go on to the next step there. That said, let's jump back into another model, and in this case, this is a circuit board from this air quality sensor that we use at the factory at AU. So you actually had an opportunity to build one of these yourself, but this is one of these cases where there's multiple levels of components, and it just goes down and down and down. And so if you find a case where you select a face, like I've done here, I just left clicked it once. If I hit V, I've hidden that body, and I have really no clue where it is. And if you saw the quick tip jam session live stream that I did recently, I was talking about the value of this display utility that Patrick Rainsbury made. This has the ability to show all bodies, but now you don't need to go and install that. Actually, there are some other features in there that you might want to use, like show hidden bodies or show hidden components. But now, with just your everyone's install, you'll be able to right-click the top-level name, and just like in the generative workspace, you'll see that show all bodies. We'll be able to bring back that component, and we might get a couple more that we don't want. So I can just select and hit V again on my keyboard to get rid of that big purple body, whatever that was. So that's something that I think everyone's pretty thrilled to be able to use. I mean, you could get yourself into some very hairy situations if you had hidden a body, like I said, and it's buried, 10 levels deep in 10 different components, and trying to find and show that again could become quite a hassle. So using that methodology, you should be able to bring those back and not have to worry about adding the display utility that you can find in the add-ins section there. Sorry. Let's go back into the slideshow, and let's look at the next one. So this is another one of these things that I think is just super handy, and something that is going to make working in Fusion just much easier. Whenever you use the extent like to object when you are doing an extrude or cut or whatever it is that you were doing, or there's any number of different features that you could use that extent to object option, it actually defaulted to chain. And typically when you're using these things, you actually want it to extend faces, like and probably the easiest way for me to explain this, I'm having a lot of difficulty finding the right words today, could be my lack of sleep from traveling back from Toronto yesterday. But there's a lot of times where you actually want to use the extend option rather than the chain option to extend the faces that you're trying to extrude to. So now it's actually the default method that's being used in that option. So let me just jump back into this caster wheel. Actually, not this one. I wanted to look at the finished version and say, I wanted to add maybe like the next component on to this piece. So I'll add an offset plane, and this is something I'll talk about a little bit later. When you're actually creating construction geometry, the origin planes pop up, which makes it very handy to add planes and features like this a little bit easier. And maybe I wanted to add like a circular sketch, and actually no, let's do that in a slightly different way. Let's project maybe the existing edge and then offset it. So I just want this next piece to just be slightly larger than the original. I just want a little overlap to ensure that we have full interference or full connection with the existing piece there. So if I were to use this now and try to extrude up to, say, the face that's right there, I could change the extent from distance to object, select the face, and previously with that chain faces, it would have thrown up this error to you. It would have said, the tool body is not large enough to get this to stop, essentially is what it's saying, because that small overlap that I did. So now by using this extend faces option, it's going to ensure that it finds those, and I can create this new body very quickly and easily, and not have to go and fiddle with any of those options hopefully later. So nice little change there. There's a brand new tool, and actually, if you read Kaching's blog, you probably already know that this was already actually added in the last release, but we didn't talk about it. I think there were some things they wanted to modify before, making it very public. But there's now a sculpt tool within the there's now a smooth tool within the Sculpt environment, which is super handy, especially when you're working with like any of those generative results, because sometimes you get these like little leftover nub things that you just want to get rid of, essentially. And if you ever use the smooth tool within the mesh workspace, it's gonna be very familiar to you, essentially. So let me just let's jump back right into this guy. This is the same model I'm going to be working on for this quick example here, but rotating around, you might see some faces here that are kind of ugly or might protrude a little bit extra, and that's just related to the generative workflow and the way that it iterates these solutions. So if I wanted to make a change to that, all I needed to do is just double click on that or right click and select to edit the T-spline body that created that. Once you're here, you can actually find the smooth tool from under the modify drop down. You'll select it from the second section there, and it's looking for faces to use, and you can just do a nice big Windows selection to get a bunch of faces. In this case, it needs to update because this was created in the previous version. But once those are selected, you're provided with a slider essentially, and you can slide it one way or the other to try to accomplish new things with the face selection that you currently have. So I had actually previously made a quick change to this model to create some additional pieces, but I apparently didn't save it, and that's why I'm not finding a very specific place to apply this. But make sure to just get into a model that you have. If you have a sculpted body that maybe is just like not smooth in areas, try that tool. It'll do a fantastic job of clearing out some of those issues that you might find with the sculpted bodies that you're creating there. So okay, back into the slide deck here. This is another one of these things that I talked about in my previous live stream, where because we made that change to the fillet command and we combined the rule fillet and normal fillet, it made it a little bit more difficult to actually select edges, and that's typically what you're wanting to do with the fillet command. And so I actually showed you a little bit of like a select other method to be able to select through faces. But obviously a lot of our users mentioned that they'd like to have the previous functionality back, where it's automatically going to be looking for edges essentially when you're in this fillet command. So what we've done is we've done just that. So it's gonna want to automatically find those fillet edges. So because I used this example in my previous live stream, I might as well use the same thing here. Here, if you recall, or if you weren't a part of that live stream, what I was trying to do was I was trying to apply a fillet to that edge and that edge, and it was actually kind of difficult to select both the edges because it was trying to find faces and all kinds of different things because of the changes we made to the fillet command. However, now with this quick change that we made, you can actually see it's going to want to filter to those edges automatically, and so I can go and I can select these two pieces very, very easily and very quickly right through other faces and other bodies to be able to apply the fillets to both sides of that piece of the suspension of this mountain bike. So nice change there. I'm definitely happy to see that implemented. It does make some of my previous lessons a little out of date, but I'm more than happy to have that happen if it means that the usability is going to be that much easier. And this is a huge one. This is in the drawings environment. It's going to give you the ability to reorder and hide and show different part list columns in your drawing creation. So let's jump right back into Fusion 360 and show this on that same the air quality sensor that I was mentioning before. So here I want to create a parts list maybe, so I'll go and I'll grab my table, I'll select the view that I want to associate it with, or I can even just start to pop it into location here. Once I click to drop it in, you can see it has a certain number of different entities or columns already in this. It actually remembered the previous way that I had done it just because I was testing this out to make sure it worked in the way that I wanted. But you can see, I have items on the left and quantity on the right, and that might not be the way that your company wants to have this look. So now you can just double click right on the table that we're presented with there. You'll see we're able to add different and new columns, part name if you'd like, because sometimes part names and part descriptions are very similar. You can add material if that's something that you wanted to represent in this list. You could add mass and various other things. I'm going to actually just stick with, we'll add the description and we'll add the material as well. But now I want that quantity to be over to the left, so I'm just going to select it from this list that we're provided with and then reorder it using the arrows provided here. So I can just kind of bump this up until it's where I'd expect it to be over there on the left-hand side of the table. And then we can go and we can, replace this back in the correct location and make sure it goes the full length of that title block. So that looks great. Super happy to see that added to the drawing workspace. We've had so many updates to the drawing workspace in the last year. It's something that we know, and we're looking to update it as much as we possibly can, essentially. So after that, I'm going to go through and show you some of these other updates that were added. Some of this is going to be kind of, PowerPoint based. I'm not going to actually be showing you every single one of these. It's hard to do a lot of these live, and I think that might be why the video method kind of works a little bit better than the live method. But like I say, if you appreciate this, then let us know. I mean, we could do a combination of both too. So it's not like we have to choose from column A or column B. In the manufacturing workspace, we've done a lot of updates to our turning. So you can now visualize and the correctly modeled holders in the library, and this helps to make the simulation and toolpath verification actually work very much better. We added turning leads and angles, so you'll find these parameters available in the profile as you're adding these. Someone had mentioned that they liked using the view orientation, the tool view orientations, and the HSM tools that Autodesk also create. So make sure to find these in the view toolbar, navigation toolbar at the bottom of the graphics area. You'll be able to look at these and interact with those tool views much better. In generative design, we added a keyboard shortcut to create those new generative design studies. So just hit Edit on your keyboard and you'll be in a new generative design study. This one's pretty handy because a lot of times once you finish a generative design study, maybe you want to go and simulate it again with a different failure criterion in mind, or you want to create tool paths or do different things with it. And having physical materials applied in situations like that is helpful to figure out. It's just going to cut down the number of steps that you're going to have to go through to run a simulation. You don't need to go and reapply the physical material or go look it up from the generative results to figure out what material it was. So super handy to see that. Part of this, there's like a party going on behind me or something. Part of this, I wanted to also talk about some of the fixes as well. I think that with the video format that we'd been doing, we really just did the highlights reel. But I think it's important to also talk about the fixes that we're doing, and because our developers are constantly fixing, tweaking, and improving your user experience, and it's not something that we would highlight in a video necessarily, but it is something that we can talk about in a live stream. So opens up a little bit of new potential for us. So we fixed some workspace switching issues that users had experienced when they went from simulation to generative design. They removed the extra input controls from force loads. So if you've been using generative design, when you go to apply a force, you notice the big box was massive, and it was essentially like applying by magnitude. So that was a little bit annoying, and they fixed that. And STL outcomes were the wrong size, and I think this has been corrected now. In the sketching environment, and unfortunately these are really tough to show. I mean, I wish I had some numbers to back up what I'm talking about here, like the performance improvements that we're seeing with pattern. But everyone sketches every single day, so we're just continually trying to tweak and improve the code and to make things a little bit better for everybody. So we've increased the solver robustness, so hopefully it creates a more predictable manner. It avoids, when you alter dimension, sometimes your sketches can get a little wonky. Hopefully we've improved that situation for a lot of you. We've also improved the pattern performance, because previously we would actually create the sketch entities as we were doing the patterning, but now we're just doing like a visual preview instead, so it's going to make it a little bit easier to get those done. A couple fixes on that side. Command crash issues, constraint stability was improved, and sketch palette grids were improved. On the modeling side, there's been a lot of improvement done to creation of construction geometry. I showed the last one there just briefly as I created that sketch when I wanted to show you the extend faces option. But the origin planes now appear as you're creating construction geometry. A lot of times you just want to reference them, or maybe know where they are, or even just use them to create new construction geometry. So very handy to not have to go and find them in the browser and show them and do different things there. Snap offset planes to sketch points. So this is going to help you in the creation of planes. So you can actually select those sketch points now, as well as the construction plane through points. Some nice improvements there. In terms of data and usability, we did a number of different fixes. I'm not going to talk about every single one of these, but like I said, I did want to make sure that it was something that we brought up during these live streams, because it gives us a little more flexibility to talk about the wider range of fixes and improvements that we're doing as we create each new version. So that's actually it for the live stream today. I wanted to thank everybody for coming. It's a little bit shorter than our normal one. Hopefully that was handy for everybody to see a little bit of the what's new in action. If you like this way of doing the live streams, let us know, or sorry, this way of doing the what's new presentation. If you like this, let us know. If not, let us know that as well. This is just we're trying something new here. So thanks everybody for coming. I hope that was handy. Have a great week.